Let's go to the IMs. I am Jimmy Sullivan. A few years ago, I found myself standing next to Julian Bond on the subway that runs underneath Cincinnati Airport. "It's Julian, right?" I asked, and we talked briefly for a few minutes at the end of the line. He acted as if he had known me his whole life. What a decent human being. Extremely brave human being. One story I heard, this was a guy who was, let me just briefly, to the extent that I know anything about him. He was in the leadership of SNCC. We've talked about SNCC just the other day, actually. I think in the context of voting rights. And was very helpful in the fight for voting rights in the civil rights movement. He ran and won for the Georgia State Legislature in 1965. He left SNCC as it got more radical, I think. Basically kicked white people out. Became part of the NAACP, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the timing exactly of how this all works, but I know that he ran for office and won in Georgia, his state legislature, in 1965 or 66. They refused to seat him in the Georgia State Legislature. And the Supreme Court made the Georgia State Legislature seat him. He served there, I think, for like 15, 20 years. Ran against John Lewis for a seat, congressional seat in Georgia. Got very ugly, that campaign. Lewis has since, said that they made up, or at least, put out a statement of respect for Julian Bond. The story I heard was that Julian Bond would not go to Coretta Scott King's funeral because it was being held in a church where the pastor was anti-gay. And he said that Coretta Scott King would be spinning in a grave if she knew that, and he wouldn't go. And it just shows like the guy had a very broad sense. He was also very involved in the anti-war movement. He had a very broad sense of justice. Very broad sense of justice. So he will be missed.